Welcome to episode number 13, I think we're at now. Unlucky 13 or lucky 13, however you look at it if you're into that numerology stuff. Anyway, welcome to the show. My name is Sasha. I am your host for however long this is going to go. And thanks for tuning in. I got some faithful listeners. That's really cool. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate your support. I appreciate your kind words. Anybody new that's listening to this today, go down to the bottom of the screen here and hit the like and subscribe button. I would appreciate it. I'm not doing this for money. My podcast isn't monetized. It's just me recapping what I see going on the week previously, giving you my unsolicited opinion on what I'm seeing. And I'm glad you guys are tuning in, so thanks. Anyway, where do you want to start? Let's talk ostriches. There's some crazy stuff if you're following the news up here in Canada. An ostrich farm in BC. Now, these ostriches, a while back, they caught avian flu. Not a good thing, right? Some of those birds died. I believe 69 of the birds or something like that died, if I'm following this correctly. 69 of them died from the avian flu. The other 400, which is a significant number, they developed antibodies, basically, and for all intents and purposes are healthy birds. Now, of course, the government, they want the birds killed. 400 of them. The owners of the ostrich farm, they're like blown away, and they're like, no, test the birds. They're healthy. We'll pay for the testing. No. The government wants to kill these birds. Now, if you're a conspiracy type of person that believes in conspiracy theories, it warrants looking into anyway, but who would benefit if these things actually did develop natural antibodies that could be tested and looked at and maybe even replicated? I don't know. But it would be worth looking into. No, that's my opinion. I think so. Seems like, hey, let's look into this. But I would imagine big pharma companies that make billions of dollars creating vaccines for things such as the avian flu. That would kind of hit their bottom line if somebody could see how these birds, develop these antibodies and stuff like that, right? It seems like everything is a conspiracy theory nowadays. And I don't know whether I'm just going down that rabbit hole, but it's like, I can see why entities want to cull critical thinking, because it makes you wonder. A lot of things make you wonder, so the government, right, so they want to kill these 400 birds. Now, they won't test them, believe what you want regarding that scenario. But what's funny is that, have you seen the amount of law enforcement that is surrounding this ostrich farm? Okay, there's a lot of officers, lots of cops. Now, last time I checked, there was a report that went out, and we have, excuse me, we have about 4,000 illegal drug labs in Canada. 4,000 of them. That's not a small number. And lots of them are actually in BC. Now, are there like hundreds of cops outside of those drug labs, you think? I don't think so. They're not outside there. They're outside the ostrich farm, right? Because the government is hell bent on culling these animals. Thankfully, though, the Supreme Court of Canada, I believe, granted them a stay of execution for the time being. That to me feels kind of like a political thing to do. I mean, it's good that it buys them some time. I think ultimately, though, the government will never admit that they're wrong. And because they've got the process rolling on exterminating these 400 birds, they don't want to admit they're wrong. So they probably won't backtrack that. And those poor birds will end up losing their lives, you know. So, yeah, so that's what our cops are busy doing, guarding the ostriches. You know, they're not working on the Mexican drug cartels that have infiltrated Canadian society. I believe there was a report out that much of the fentanyl that's processed here in Canada and shipped abroad is the result of Mexican drug cartels, like the Sinaloa cartel. They're effectively, they've moved operations to Canada because Canada is very lax on illegal immigrants and crossing the border, as we've proven by our extensive tariffs that have been levied against us for such things as the drug flow and the illegal immigration. So the drug cartels, they're in Canada now, operating BC and Alberta ports, right? They've aligned themselves like with the Asian gangs, which control like the ports in Vancouver and stuff like that, which is a shipping hub, I would imagine, for all the precursors needed to cook this shit up before they distribute it and kill people. And they're moving operations up here because President Trump, south of the border, has all but closed the southern border. They're enforcing a zero tolerance. Lots of people are up in the air about that, and actually not even up in the air. Lots of people are like screaming from the rafters. It's like, it's fascism and stuff like that. No, he's protecting the citizens of his country. Here in Canada, I mean, our internet is rife with rampant criminality in Toronto, Montreal, and stuff like that by new Canadians, unvetted, violent, parasitic, don't want to work, just living off the Canadian taxpayer. Myself and you out there listening, we're the recipient of the government going in our pockets and not even feeling us up a little while they take our wallet. They're just like reaching in there and helping themselves to more and more money. More and more money. Meanwhile, the cartels, they're making so much money plying their trade. They're heavily invested in drones because they're readying themselves for American intervention in Mexico. I don't know if you follow that kind of stuff, but they basically, these criminal gangs, they run Mexico. They're so high up in the government that quelling their criminality is almost impossible because it's so it's infiltrated into all arms of the government from the presidency all the way down. Everybody's corrupt. And I think that's why we've seen the crackdown from Mexico on their own cartel, because they're so... It's a show is basically what I think it is. It's a show, right? Because they don't want America going down, right? Because the government, I think, is complicit in narco trafficking and stuff like that. Anyway, that's another rabbit hole. But so these criminal gangs are moving up here. They're fortifying themselves south of the border. What can you say? Like, it's almost unfathomable what's going on around us, man. Law-abiding citizens, they're getting their guns taken away, their ability to defend themselves. Our borders have been like a porous entry point for all the riffraff from all over the world that you can imagine, coming to the West. They're saying it. I mean, how many more videos do you gotta see from these fighting age immigrants that are coming into countries all over the world, and they're basically saying we're either going to outbreed you or kill you. One way or another, we're taking over, and we're just letting these people in so that, in my case, in the Canadian government, so that the Liberal Party can hold on to power. They've declared Palestine a state. Yeah, they've declared it a state. Carney has even talked about boots on the ground in Gaza, for peacekeeping efforts and stuff like that. And, I mean, I didn't vote for that useless monster. I'm trying to bite my tongue here a little more. But yeah, I didn't vote for that useless monster. But those of you that voted, is that what you voted for? So that we can go into Gaza, a place that they've been fighting over since, the 1940s kind of thing? The 1940s, we've seen strife and conflict over there. Yeah, I don't think anybody voted for that. And where's the money for that coming from all of a sudden? You got criminal cartels that are fortifying themselves. You got regular Joe citizens like you and me that are constantly battling Big Brother government for every little right, taking it away a bit at a time. What's that saying? If you remove a link out of a dog's chain, one a day, every day, the dog doesn't even notice, until it can't move. It's so accustomed to it that, that it can't move. And that's what I feel is happening to us. And I'm not just talking about Canadians, though it's very prevalent for me because I live in Canada, but for all over the world, it's happening. Internet censorship. You seen that coming, right? Because it's the only form of independent information, wrong or right, racist or non-racist, like honest talk, right? It's the only place that people have to get a different point of view. Legacy media, I mean, that's a whole show unto itself about how they spin a narrative to whoever is like paying them or owns them or whatever the case is. Here in Canada, I've been talking about, somebody in my family that, isn't exposed, due to their age, right? It's an age thing. Even me with the TikToks and shit like that, I don't get that stuff, man. It's my age. I'm not as tech savvy as my young niece, for instance. I'm not as tech savvy as the 10-year-old kid next door. It's an age-related thing, but this legacy media, she had no idea about the Ukrainian girl that got killed. in North Carolina, was it? I believe. I don't remember. There was very little news on the Charlie Kirk assassination. And when there was news on it, they called him, what did they call it? Extreme right-wing opinionist or something like that. They didn't paint him with a very nice brush, because our media up here is bought and paid for by the Liberal government, and our Liberal government, they're corrupt, and they're extremist left-leaning. Our prime minister was installed through chicanery and debauchery and just crookedness. Used there's no system that's perfect, but used a flawed system to install himself into the highest position in the land, lied about it, lied to the constituents that voted for him about it, the ones, people like me that saw right through his bullshit just due to his track record. Of course, we're painted by extremist and ultra right wing, and no, it's just we can smell a rat. We can smell a rat from a mile away, man. And we all knew that our Prime Minister Carnage Carney, we knew that he was going to be exactly like he is. Lying, cheating. If you caught his recent speech, what was it, at the WEF, I think is what it was, and he kind of laid out his vision and his plans for Canada, and it sure had a lot of details in that speech that he didn't tell the Canadian citizens in his speech here at home. Do you know what I mean? And is it me? Do you feel it? Do you feel like you're just getting bent over every step of the way and getting hammered on this, man? So, so he's telling speeches to non-Canadian entities and laying out all these details, and basically here at home, Canadians are going, what? What did he say? He's doing what? And I'm hoping, I kind of feel the tide is turning here at home when it comes to that, but I still have my reservations. There's still too many people on my feed that I consider friends that are, it's like, I don't get your way of thinking, man. I don't see how everything that they're looking at is like, our Alberta government is, it's authoritarian, and is it doing heavy-handed things to restore some semblance of order? Of course it is. Of course it is here in Alberta, but again, we're now dealing with the federal government as well. So our federal government, while 25.8% of Canadians suffer food insecurities, can't afford groceries is the layman's term for it. We just can't afford to eat. For my Canadian friends that are listening, you know what I'm talking about. For my international brethren that are on here, the prices of food here in Canada are fucking nuts. I think that was my first F-bomb of the show, so I'm doing all right. We're at, 19 minutes in. Anyway, the prices of food here is nuts and continues to climb. Like it's nothing for a single paper bag of groceries to cost you $100+. So, picture your average paper bag, and mentally see how much shit you can pile into there. Now, remember, we try to eat healthy, so things like salads and stuff like that, they take up a lot of room. So you get the idea. You can't pack that much into a paper bag, but it's $100, no problem. But, to do something for the citizens, nah. Why would we do that when we could pay $1 billion a year to house new Canadians, voters, parasites that really, for the lion's share, don't contribute to Canadian society. He's now offered to let the new Canadians bring their parents into the country, who, of course, are too old to work, clearly. So what does that mean? I guess me as a taxpayer that's still of age that can earn a living and pay taxes, well, I guess I'll just pay for that. And you folks out there, you're going to be paying for it too if you're living in Canada. It just doesn't end. And like I said, I'm hoping that this feeling that I get is this shift of brewing, if you will. Because we got to turn things around. We're funding. We're devoting resources that are much needed at home to causes that really have nothing to do with us. And in my opinion, we shouldn't be spending that money. Sorry, Ukraine. Sorry, Gaza, or whatever side you're on there. Sorry, Canadians are hurting. Food bank visits are skyrocketing. Crime is rampant. How about instead of sending $20 billion to Zelensky, how about we use some of that money here at home to maybe hire and train some more police, a police force that actually protects the citizens, not makes the judgment calls on, oh yeah, that person is worth protecting. Oh, but if you break into your house and you hurt the guy breaking in, well, we're going to have to put you behind bars. That isn't the kind of police forcing that we need. We need some good common sense initiatives here in Canada to do our best to push back and try to turn things around. We're devoting money to, like, the Israeli-Gaza conflict, which I said that they've been fighting for 40 plus, even more, forever. They've been fighting all of my life and then some. Let's put it into perspective. Number one, Palestine does not have an army. Never had an army. Hamas, which is basically a terrorist organization that rose to prominency and power due to the West's other follies within that region, right? Because we don't just, when we do a regime change, that just means that it's our bad guy that's running the show there. But that doesn't mean all the other bad guys that aren't our bad guy just go away and go, well, I guess we'll try it again in 4 years. No, that isn't how it goes. These factions break off, and just like the Taliban and the and Hamas and Boko Haram and all these organizations, right? They're just propped up because we create vacuums in areas, and there's always something that fills these vacuums, right? And it's usually not in a good way. Not in a good way. So back to it. Palestine doesn't have an army. Hamas, though, has a military branch, which at last known numbers has between 100 and 300 militarily trained personnel. Again, that's between 100 and 300 militarily trained personnel. Okay? So just remember these numbers if you can. So, they have their standard stash of automatic weapons. They got the grenades and the machine guns and the anti-aircraft guns, and they have some missiles that Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld probably sold them for a song because they had them kicking around in their shed somewhere. Or the Americans left it at one of their other warfare operations somewhere in that area. Like Afghanistan, all that military hardware was all left behind. I'm sure that they're not destroying it. I'm sure that they're making it work and going to use it somewhere, or are using it somewhere. So anyway, so Hamas, they got their, that's what they're using to I don't know, how do you put it, to have like that 40, 50-year war with Israel? With a couple of hundred people with some old shit that was, left behind and dug up. And Israel, on the other hand, they got 170,000 active IDF soldiers. They have 615 heavy-duty military vehicles, which would be like the big, giant, heavy-duty tanks that most likely was supplied by the United States, either through funding or through the tanks themselves, the gift of tankage. They got 2,022 medium-sized battle tanks, 196 F-16s, 83 F-15s, 36 newer F-35s. They got 142 attack helicopters. 43 of them are the new Apaches the old Apaches that the Americans gave them when they got their new Apaches. I think that's how it works. They got 5 submarines. They got the Iron Dome going for them. Anyway, if you know where I'm going with this, it seems like an entity with that much military might in comparison to the enemy that they've been fighting for ever since I've been alive. It will almost make you think that maybe there's people that don't want that conflict to ever end. Why, they've been going this long. Imagine how much money the companies that make tanks, guns, bullets, missiles, aircraft, warfare products. Imagine the companies that are making all those. You think that they want that conflict to end? You think that they want the war in Ukraine over? Ever? Right? That these wars are just popping up? That literally Israel is popping up almost everywhere. Now, I'm not one of these. I've been called it, and I guess, I've said before, I really don't give a shit at this point anymore what I'm labeled as, because sometimes you have to say uncomfortable things in order to point out the truth, and sometimes the truth can be ugly, right? So we need to We need to stand up and stand strong, and we need to fight for our right to party. No, not to party, but that too, because that's going to come to an end if the extreme Muslim horde have their way, which is, again, what they're talking about on almost all of their social media. That's what I don't get. That I still have friends that are like, oh, they're not all like that. You're right. Not all Muslims are terrorists. You are absolutely right. Not all Muslims. And I'll reiterate this. And I want my friends to be cool, because I don't want to say I know a lot of Muslims, but I know a few that are really cool. So I know that not all Muslims are terrorists. But I'll tell you what, all terrorists are Muslim. And that's all I'm going to say about that. You know what I mean? So does that make me, phobic? Islamophobic? No, because I'm not scared per se. I'm just pointing out the fact, right? If somebody is going to blow themselves up for a religious cause, or because American girls show their ankles, or whatever the case is, I'm using hyperbole here, but like you get the idea of the ridiculousness of it all. But if somebody is going to do harm like that, it ain't Bob from Denver. It ain't Garth from fucking Lac La Biche. You know what I mean? It's going to be someone from a country where their entire lives they've been indoctrinated that anybody that isn't on their team is a piece of shit and is not worthy of existence. So what's Canada doing? Well, we're importing them by the millions because nothing ever went wrong anywhere else in the world unless you look at the UK, or unless you look at Germany, or unless you look at Spain, or unless you look at Italy, or unless you look at, you get it. You get where I'm going. You get the cut of my jib. But like these endless wars, these endless conflicts that are getting funded by, we're fighting over certain things that are negligible. We shouldn't be fucking talking about that. But, we're not fighting hard enough for things that we need to be fighting about, like our children. And the indoctrination of the woke left that's happening in every school across the Western world, man. Like, it's no coincidence. Do you guys really think that it's a coincidence that the last bastions of freedom, Western freedom as we know it, UK, Australia, Canada, like, does anybody really think that it's a coincidence that all three of them are just like circling the shitter all at the same time? And then you can't draw the correlation about, gee, I wonder what all three of those have in common. Well, let's see, right? Number one, they all have leftist woke leadership that's detrimental to the citizenry of their prospective land domain. They're importing people from third world countries, violent people that would have I mean, all their lives they've seen people blown up, people executed, people's hands cut off, people's heads cut off. You know what I mean? So that barbarianism that they've been accustomed to all their life, most people in the Western world, like in the UK, in Canada, in Australia, many of the leftists in the United States, they can't even fathom. They can't even fathom that they would just drag you out into the street and plug you, unalive you, because you were out after 9 p.m. when you shouldn't have been. There's Sharia, there's Sharia courts that are, present in Western countries. Like, how does that make sense? How does that make sense? But, and I always say Israel just shows up in everything. They're all about, oh yeah, everybody should take all these immigrants. Everybody should take all these immigrants, but you know what? They're not. The Middle Eastern Muslim countries, that Egypt, for instance, they're not taking Palestinian refugees as an example. I don't know what to tell you, folks. I'm just blown away at what I'm living through. Never in a million years, like 10, 15 years ago, let's go 15, 20 years ago. But like 15, 20 years ago, I would have never in a million years thought that this is what we're going to be going through right now. That people like yourself and like myself, we could get into trouble because we don't call someone the correct pronouns, for God's sake. Women, like biological, real women that are pro-gender woke, this gender woke movement, that boys can be girls, girls can be boys, everybody's fluid, feminists, I am woman, hear me roar. Not one of those feminists has ever, did you ever hear any of these ultra feminist types that you see all over social media? Did you ever see them speak up for real women, in sports, in their safe spaces like change rooms or, dressing rooms at the gym or whatever? I don't ever recall it. This is a movement that's designed to literally attack Western society from all fronts. You got to be careful for your children. You got to be careful for your pocket. You got to be careful for your neighbors. You got to be careful for the criminal justice system. We're just getting attacked on all fronts, man. And I'm getting punch drunk. The people that are making big differences, I'm circling back to, the Charlie Kirk thing. We haven't forgot about old Charlie. And, a father, a young guy, a mover, a shaker. Got executed for free speech, basically. Somebody didn't like what he said. And again, coincidence? I don't know, man, but good old Israel shows up once again. If you've been following the Charlie Kirk thing, me from the get-go, the first guy that they arrested, the old guy, I never thought that it was like, fuck that. No way. It wasn't that guy. That guy's the guy that they're using so that the real guy gets away. And that's what looks to be the case. When was the last time you've seen a political assassination of this magnitude where the case was open and shut in like 2 weeks, man. 2 weeks from not knowing who did it to this guy did it, and he never had any help, and he never was coerced by anybody, or whatever the case is, whatever you might be looking into. Just open and shut in 2 fucking weeks, man. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. I said it in a previous show. I think that he was whacked because he had a powerful voice, and that powerful voice was reshaping the youth of America. By his assassination, is now reshaping the youth of the world, actually. So they didn't really do, I think, what their purpose was. It kind of backfired, if you will. But, yeah, they shot a guy for free speech and open and shut case in 2 weeks. Myself and some other people, they do not buy it. Check out some other podcasts that I really enjoy. I really enjoy Candace Owens. Charlie Kirk was a friend of hers, and she is doing this massive because she just doesn't buy the convenience of everything. I don't either. I thought that a lot of it was like, why would the guy say that? Why would he text that? Right? So the kid with no criminal record knocks off basically they had zero evidence, zero suspects, nobody knew who the fuck did it. But then miraculously they found some text messages to his transvestite lover, or not transvestite, I don't know, to his tranny furry lover. Basically laid out the entire crime, bullet points, and the FBI jumped on that and it's like, yeah, open and shut cases. This guy did it. Why that, I think his name is George Zinn or Zim, Jewish fella, linked to Jewish governmental entities, like not the Mossad, but like kind of has these fucking tentacles in there. Like I said in a previous show, that guy was like, they interviewed him at 9/11. He just happened to be there. And then the Boston bombings, I think, was another place that he just happened to be there. Right? Like, come on, man. I believe in coincidences, but come on, man. And I think that these entities are doing this under our very eyes to make us think that we're fucking losing our minds, because that's what it feels like. I mean, this Charlie Kirk thing, the shooter narrative, it just doesn't jive. It just does not jive. From the texts to the like imagine 22-year-old. His text messages, he's talking about, I left my rifle at the drop point, and there was a squad car patrolling. I mean, granted, I don't know that many 22-year-olds anymore, but I do know a few, and they don't talk like that, man. They don't use words like surveillance and drop points, and, it just wasn't, to me, it just wasn't the vernacular that you would think that a 22-year-old kid that just blew someone's throat out would use to his furry lover, basically laying out the bullet points of his crime and locking himself into into an unsolicited confession that'll probably get him, what is it in Utah? The firing squad, I think, right? Ironic. They should use the same caliber that they're saying in the same spot. That would be poetic justice, folks. Same caliber, same spot. Which brings me back to this investigation. I mean, you can't throw a stick without finding a video of military experts on record on YouTube, both showing what the Charlie Kirk rifle would do or should do in any circumstance, like literally showing what this type of weapon and this caliber of rifle would do to a person. And, the authorities from the FBI all the way down, they're still trying to sell the citizens on the fact that, yeah, Charlie Kirk, it was a miracle. He had like strong bones and, he had strong bones and it was a miracle. There was no exit wound. There wasn't a bullet though, but there was no exit wound. And, he probably saved like a couple of people that were standing behind him that would have caught the bullet had it been the bullet that they're talking about, which is bullshit, in my opinion. I think it's bullshit. So we got the timeline issues. Some of the timeline issues, they're saying that that this Tyler Robinson, there's actually video footage that's like the college campus footage. You could imagine how many cameras that they have around a college campus. Especially these days, right? With the school shootings in America and stuff like that, they're probably, they probably got a camera every 10 feet. But anyway, so they got footage of the top of the building where the shooter was laying. We know this because they have footage of the shooter running and jumping off the building. Now, footage that was previously seen of the building that people provided was like a weather cam basically, and it kind of shot over the campus, and this building was right there in the forefront, kind of thing. So previous footage show that you could see the entire roof surface, so you could have seen that shooter laying there and actually firing the fatal shot into Charlie Kirk. You could see that. They have that footage. If that was the guy, they have that footage. But they cut the tape so that you see him running. And then there's another angle where you see him jumping off the roof. Again, you don't see him firing the shot. It's clearly been clipped, because if they have that footage, that camera would have shot the other footage. So it's clear that it's like not an edited photo or not an edited video. I guess it is edited because it's been cropped, is what I'm saying. It's been cropped. So we got those timeline issues. Experts, the FBI selling us on the fact that that he made the shot. Backtrack a little. So experts tell us that he snuck the rifle onto the roof, put it together, made the shot, took the rifle apart, changed his clothes, got off the roof, and went and ditched the rifle. Now, the part where takes the shot, takes it apart, changes his clothes, that has to happen in under 30 seconds. Okay, experts have shown that kind of rifle, military guys that are weapons technicians and stuff, show that the fastest that they've got that rifle taken apart is like 50 seconds, 1 minute. So this kid took it apart and changed his clothes in under 30 seconds and got off the roof. And the reason that we know that is, again, all these different videos, they have timelines, right? SMPTE time. These things, these things calculate, it was shot at 4:32 p.m. and 15 seconds, or like a Charlie Kirk, I think it was like at 12:32 or something like that was when the bullet was fired. Anyway, so the timeline issues, they don't make sense. The caliber issues don't make sense either. Like I said, we got military experts all over the internet that are like, there's no way that he got shot with a 30-06, man. That would have taken his head clean off. They've showed using that and hitting bone in an elk, right? An elk that has a skeletal system that, holds up 600 to 1,200 pounds, right? Where the bones just like vaporize, like not just shatter, but they vaporize, right? But Charlie Kirk's neck bone, because he was so healthy. This is, I'm laughing and giggling. Not that this is funny. This is horrendous. But I'm laughing at giggling at the absurdity of what they're trying to get us to believe, folks. The absurdity. They're saying that, oh yeah, Charlie, because he was young and healthy, his neck bone, stopped that bullet. An elk bone, which you would imagine is like probably 5 times as dense and strong. Those bones shatter, but Charlie's neck bone, Charlie's neck bone, man, it was a miracle, they called it. It was a miracle. And, call me an asshole, but when my FBI, the highest source of investigation and law enforcement, tell me to chalk it up to a miracle, sorry, folks. Sorry, man. I don't buy that. You got to do better than that, than a fucking miracle. Give me a break. The rifle transporting issues were another thing where, oh yeah, he was, he had it in his pants, and then there's video of the apparent shooter going up the stairs, and clearly it's not in his pants because he's bending his leg. Then again, about the putting the rifle together on the roof, firing the fatal shot, taking the rifle apart, getting away clean and scot-free, putting the rifle back together because they found it in one piece wrapped in a towel. Remember that, folks, right? So he put the rifle together, shot, took it apart, packed it away, jumped off the roof, got away clean, scot-free, put the rifle together so that he could dump it, and then hung around, right? They got video footage of him at a Dairy Queen while there's like a massive manhunt looking for a guy that looks just like him, but he changed his T-shirt. And this is what the top law enforcement thing in the country is selling, right? And we're supposed to believe it. The same entity that for 2 years was talking about the Epstein list and how he was trafficking underage girls to important, prominent politicians, businessmen, clergymen, you name it, movers and shakers of the world. So 2 years they were pumping that idea to everybody. Oh yeah, we're going to release the list. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, did we say lisp? We meant lisp. We meant lisp. We think, Jeffrey Epstein had a lisp. Yeah, they just disappeared the list and everybody's supposed to go, well, I guess there was no list, right? We're supposed to forget the fact that his number 2, Ghislaine Maxwell, is sitting in prison for 20 years for, what do you think she's sitting in prison for? Oh yeah, trafficking charges, human trafficking. But Jeffrey Epstein, he never trafficked anybody to anybody. It was just for him, and it was his personal pleasure. And, the photos of Prince Andrew with the now dead victim, just forget about that. That's nothing. It's a coincidence. It's a coincidence. Again, Jeffrey Epstein, by all indications, also linked to who? To the Israelis. That's right. The state of Israel, the Zionists, right? Linked to them as well. But nothing to see here, folks. It just seems that all these things, they just disappear. The Charlie Kirk thing, right? About the money issues, that he was, he was on Megyn Kelly talking about how he felt pressured from those entities, right, to be more pro-Israeli. And again, that's why I think that he got killed, because he was making It was like the biggest youth movement in history, folks. This wasn't like some small potatoes, man. This is like big shit. Big shit, man. So the youth movement is going back to traditional America first, and and as Megyn Kelly said on her show, that the 30 and under have zero support for the state of Israel and their their warfare in the Middle East. They have zero support. And Charlie Kirk was making that lack of support an even bigger chasm that they would have to navigate over. And like I said, right? Like they pop up into everything. The state of Israel. I'm not talking about all Jews and stuff like that. So I know, oh yeah, you're an anti-Semite. No, I'm talking about the state of Israel, man. I'm talking about this government entity that's hell-bent on war, and my government and the American government and Western governments in general, they're hell-bent on, yeah, man, let's fund these wars because we just so happen to have friends of ours that are big in military weaponry and stuff like that. So, right? So why end something that's making us billions of dollars, right? And like I said, they pop up everywhere that you look. Pedophile rings, they're in it. Like they pop up. They're somehow linked to it. Money influencing government officials, they're in it. APAC. The Charlie Kirk thing, right? The pressure that he was feeling, right? From who? From them, right? Money infusions. Oh yeah, make your religious TED Talks that you do more pro-Israeli, and we'll give you, like, we're talking like huge sums of money, right? The American government, the Senate is bought and infiltrated by these entities, right? And to the point where there's laws, there's laws in America that if you say something bad against the state of Israel, that you could actually suffer all sorts of legal persecution and prosecution. Here in Canada, the elbows up fucktards that helped install our useless prime minister. We're looking at Bill C-8. Where this Melanie Jolie, she wants to have this legislation that you could literally be kicked off the internet permanently. And if you find some way to kind of backdoor it, they can hold whoever provides you internet service. Like, you could literally be cut off from Bell Canada or whatever. They could be like, and you wouldn't even know it, And there's nothing that you can do. No warrant, no trial, just gone. Just gone. This is what they're passing. The Carney budget, the parliamentary budget officer, used word, Jason Jacques is his name, used words like shocking, alarming, stupefying, unsustainable. Me as a Canadian, I don't want to hear that fucking shit. We're already going through some terrible times, man. Like I said, 25% of households in Canada struggle to afford food. That's up from 18% in 2023. That's a big jump, folks. Immigration numbers are skyrocketing. Crime rates are up. I've seen videos of guys on the streets of Toronto. They're assembling a rifle. They're assembling a weapon right on the streets of Toronto in broad daylight under a camera. And clearly, you'd think that somebody would jump on them or a cop would be there to jump on them. But nope. he's just there on broad daylight in the sidewalk and just assembling a gun. Clearly a new Canadian. We are. I don't even know how to put it anymore, man. But we're getting hammered, man. From, like I said, from all sides, man. Here in Canada, we have there's a Christian church that's getting sued by a Muslim charity. This church, they had some space, I guess, in the church to rent out, or on a church property, like an office space or something like that. So anyway, and this the Muslims, they wanted to rent this space and I think put a Muslim school. Awkward. Anyway, long story longer, the Christian church is like, sorry, we're not going to rent it to you. Well, right? So now this Muslim group, they're going to tie up our court system because they're going to sue the Christian church. So how does that sit with you folks hearing this, man? This freedom of religion thing, that a Muslim charity or school or whatever can sue a Christian church because they don't want to rent their property to someone that literally not only goes against what they espouse, but literally wants to cause harm to them and teach it on their property, right? Like, you would think, like, fuck that. Sorry, folks, you can't. Sorry, folks, no vacancy. We're full, right? Anyway, so yeah, so they're tying up our court system, and they're gonna sue. Our youth here in Canada, our youth unemployment is at staggering numbers. Numbers that they haven't seen since the recession. Why, you think? Well, because we're importing more and more foreign workers. Carney, our wonderful guy, had he's increased how many foreign workers are coming on over and taking jobs from Canadian citizens, permanent resident youth and stuff like that. 2018 Stats Canada. Look it up if you want, before you label me with some sort of phobia. But 2018, this is a Stats Canada information that anyone can Google. In 2018, 7% of non-permanent residents were occupying Canadian jobs. In 2023, that number is 25%. In 2024, the projection says it might be as high as 38 to 40%. So what does that mean, folks? That means that if you have kids that are, old enough to get out in the world and, maybe earn some money for their first car or what have you, get out and tackle some responsibility, if nothing else, right? Like, we all go out and work. We have to go out and work. The government, we are an endless source of money for our government, regardless of who is in power, but especially if the Liberals are in power, because they just love to give my money away to bullshit causes. But so in 2024, 2025, they expect the numbers to be as high as 38 to 40%. So basically, your kids are gonna have a hell of a fucking time finding a job, because there are no jobs, because somebody else from another country will do it for half the price, and a lot of businesses will take advantage of that, right? Like, it's I don't want to say anything against a capitalist society, but I mean, it is what it is, right? If a company can pay a guy $10 an hour, for something that, say, a regular Joe that lives in Canada wants 18 to 20 bucks an hour. And even that, 20 bucks an hour, who can live on 20 bucks an hour nowadays in Canada? I sure as hell can't. Right, but the jobs are gone. The jobs are gone, whether you want it or, now granted, there was that trend where the jobs were too good for some of the resident Canadians. You know what I mean? That we can talk about why we think that is, why that generation feels so entitled that they have to have a like a partnership job as soon as they graduate high school, kind of thing. But fuck, I did some odd jobs for money. I was a door-to-door vacuum salesman. I made great money doing that, man. I was I worked I pumped gas. I did that for quite some time, full-time job. It was a crappy job, but it taught me that if that's the kind of shit that you don't want to be doing, here's what you got to do in order to be doing something else, right? I mean, it gave you purpose. It gave you a measuring point. It taught you responsibility. It taught you, the gas station job, it taught you responsibility. You had to be there on time, and when you worked there a little longer, you got keys to the place, and then you have to shut the car wash down, and it taught you some responsibility, right? And it's part of natural development. It's what propelled, literally, it's what propelled humanity to where we're sitting right now. Like, go back as many generations as you wish to. There was always that, that you worked, that you worked, and that you were productive, that your day was filled with productivity. Whether, you go back all the way when you, drag the fucking brontosaurus meat back to the fucking village. I don't know how far back do you want to go, but it always had to do with that you were productive and you worked, and that helped your brain develop and taught you some things and taught you responsibilities, right? That's gone. That is gone for your kids. I don't have any kids, so I don't want to say it doesn't affect me, because it affects me in the sense that every place that I go to shop, it's like nobody fucking speaks English, or has a fingernail grasp on the language. And I feel terrible for your kids out there, right? That, where is that going to leave them in another generation, right? Like these, like we're already at the point where, I mean, have you seen the price of cars? Where 3-year-old truck costs as much as like my first house, 70, 80 grand. If you want to buy something new for yourself for working hard, like a truck nowadays is like, $120,000, $130,000. Used vehicles are at 8% interest. Like that's crazy. That's crazy, for these youngsters. So we're already at the point where, the thought of them affording a house is like slim to none. Unless they go majorly into debt, which again will fall, they fall right into the laps of the big bank and the money people that are controlling the world, basically, right? Keep them in debt, and that'll keep them working, and working people pay taxes, and right? But yeah, so the kids, they have, they don't have a hope in hell to afford a home. Rents are like through the frickin' roof. it affects you as a parent because obviously they're going to live at home. You're going to want to do whatever you can to help your kid, right? Unless you got the wherewithal to find them a place and pay their rent or help pay their rent or whatever, chances are they're going to be hanging out at home for a lot longer than you anticipated, I imagine. But they're going to be at home. That affects you. Everything in your orbit costs more for groceries, more for heating and cooling the place, more for electricity because they're like fucking playing video games and watching movies all day or whatever the case is. Do you know what I mean? So it's like to me it feels like we're getting like dismantled slowly but surely. We're like our whole way of life, our whole culture is just getting disassembled. But in Quebec, there's a throuple, 3 dudes that just got the okay from the courts to adopt a baby girl. So 3 guys living together as a familial unit, if you will. 3 men. And again, don't believe me? Google it. I'll post it on my socials, man. You can read the story for yourself. Anyway, they got granted that they can adopt a baby girl. What could go wrong there, do you think? What do you think will go wrong? I feel sorry for that baby girl anyway. Already. So I know that there's going to be the people that are like, oh, well, at least, she's getting a loving home. And it's like, you just shake your head, man. You just have to shake your head. But anyway, guys, I'm rambling on a little long this time, but those are my thoughts, not yours. And folks, I feel the shift is coming on. I hope it's what I'm feeling. I hope it's not ticks or rickets from lack of fruit because we can't afford to eat in Canada. Oh my God, I laugh, but it's not funny. It's terrible, man. Anyway, folks, we're basically at war. I hate to, like I said in my things on the social, I don't sugarcoat stuff, man. If you want something sugarcoated, go buy a fucking donut, man. We're at war, man. Our kids are being poisoned. We're being poisoned. We're being lied to, and we're just a cash cow. And now that the powers that be know that we have opened our eyes to their shenanigans, now they're just going to flood our streets with another enemy to help dismantle the system once and for all. Like I said, man, these are my thoughts, not yours. I don't mean to shit on your parade. But yeah, that's the state of affairs for the past week. And there's other stuff, but do yourself a favor, check out the Candace Owens show on the Charlie Kirk murder. Check out some of Ian Carroll's stuff on the investigation. Ian Carroll, he's one of my favorite go-to guys to watch too, because he's so, I don't want to use the term nerdy in a derogatory way, but he's so like he knows his numbers and his graphs and his, and he puts together these interesting spreadsheets that, gives you a visual on, look at this is connected with this and this is connected with this and this is, some of his videos are it just blew me away. Going down the toothpaste aisle, for instance, he did this, and there's like the George Carlin thing, the illusion of choice. Anyway, he goes down the toothpaste aisle and, and all the different brands of toothpaste. You've been down your toothpaste aisle. There's like literally dozens and dozens of different brands of toothpaste. They're owned by 2 companies. So whatever it is that they're putting in the toothpaste, the fluoride or whatever else can be a neurotoxin, right? It's really only 2 companies that are doing it, right? So when you say it can't be everybody doing it, you're right. It isn't everybody doing it. You just have the George Carlin's illusion of choice. You got 40 different toothpastes to choose from, but it's really only the 2 or 3 big companies that own them. So it really doesn't matter whether you buy the Crest or whether you buy the Colgate or whether you buy the fucking Burt's Bees or Burt's Bees is probably still independently owned, but like you get the idea. Anyway, folks, we need to stay vigilant because we're at war, man. You can see it. You can see it in the Canadian government with the bills that are being passed. You can see it down in the U.S. with this, with the blatant lies and the bullshit about the stuff that's going on there. It's ridiculous. Anyway, we need to stay vigilant. Surround yourself with your people because it's getting closer and closer and closer and closer where our line in the sand, they're going to try to breach it if it hasn't been done already. But they're, the forces of darkness, man, they're not slowing down. They're coming in at full force. And I'm optimistic that we've woken up. I'm reluctant to think that it was fast enough, but I remain hopeful that that we'll turn the corner. We need to hold our government at task by whatever means necessary, man. In my case, in my opinion, I think that our Liberal government in Down East has shown us exactly what they think of us. And I think it's time for my province of Alberta to separate. And I know that there's going to be people listening on here that are losing their shit about, you can't separate. But it's time. You shouldn't remain in an abusive relationship. Bottom line, whether you're a girl, whether you're a man, we have laws if it's, abusive against animals. But our government, right? We don't have it, we don't have really any teeth to sink into the meat when they're being corrupt, lack of a better word. Anyway, we have no meat. We have no teeth to sink into it. And the stuff that we can sink our teeth in, they change the legislation as fast as they can, in order to silence our voices. And we need to roll up our sleeves, and it's time for our voices to be heard. Anyway, folks, those are my thoughts, not yours. Thank you for joining me. It is Sunday, the 28th of September. Where did the month go? I'm living in the foothills of the glorious Canadian Rockies. So, we're experiencing the changing of the larches. Where all the trees are changing colors. So go on to my socials. You'll see some pictures that I took while out and about yesterday. It's just beautiful. The colors changing, but that signals the white stuff is on its way, which is not always a pleasant prospect for us Canadians living up here. But anyway, get out and enjoy the day. I don't know where you're listening from. I do appreciate all of your support. Share my videos if you think that I'm onto something, or if you just think that I'm a fuckwit that somebody needs to poke fun at. Whatever. Share it. Like it. Please subscribe. Stay well. Stay healthy. And we will revisit on next Sunday. Alrighty? See ya!